another TV Central one-on-one podcast. I'm Aaron Ryan. This is episode 64, 2023. MasterChef Australia might be over for another year, but the culinary delights now move to the area of the most delicious desserts ever. Dessert Masters premieres on Sunday, the 12th of November on 10 and 10 Play and features 10 of the best and award-winning chefs. Morgan Hipworth is a culinary wonderkind, an entrepreneur, and a social media sensation, known for his mouth-watering creations and incredible baking skills. You've probably seen his incredible food photos on Instagram, or perhaps you tried one of his delectable recipes yourself. Morgan is not just a talented chef, he's also a thriving business owner, a food influencer, and an all-round food enthusiast. In today's episode, we'll dive into Morgan's culinary journey, exploring his passion for food, his rise to social media stardom, and the secrets behind his mouth-watering dishes. We'll also discuss his thriving business, his cooking philosophy, and the ingredients that inspire his creativity. Morgan Hipworth is here now at TV Central. Morgan, thank you for joining me.
No worries, thanks for having me. Quite the rap there.
Look, I've checked out your top 3 summer desserts online and have to ask, did you bring some Ferrero Rocher Swiss roll to the podcast? That sounds to die for.
Pull your eye into that one.
Look, certainly happy to chat about Dessert Masters, but let's see how you got there. You have an incredible journey. I read you started at the age of 7 trying to recreate dishes from cooking reality shows. 7 is obviously young. Can you share the story of how you first became passionate about cooking and baking? What inspired you to pursue a career in the culinary world?
Yeah, I guess, look, for me, I started, as you said, when I was about 7. It started by watching the first season of MasterChef at home. I remember seeing the first sort of previews for the series come on with my family and thinking, what a silly idea. Who would want to watch somebody cook? And then all of a sudden, we needed something to watch, and we found ourselves watching it, and I absolutely loved it. I found myself each weekend recreating the dishes that were made during the week, and it was just a hobby that I needed to do. Mum and dad at the time were busy renovating our house, and I'm an only child, so I needed something to keep myself occupied on weekends, and cooking became that. All of a sudden, I found I was okay at it at the age of 7 somehow, and I really enjoyed it. So I used to set up our front dining room as a restaurant, and I would call it Bistro Morgan. And that was because I found I loved French foods. I loved, like, steak frites and like creme brulees and things like that. And I'd print out menu cards, and I would print out scorecards, and I would set up it all like a restaurant, make my mum, dad, and grandparents come up and knock on the door, and I would seat them down at the tables one by one, and then serve the food and make them score it all out of 10. So that's sort of really where it all started.
Well, but you took that one step further, didn't you? Like at 13, you were filling orders for a local cafe. How on earth did that come about? I mean,
Yeah,
13.
so as you said, it sort of went from there from home, and then I started when it sort of first turned into a business was between probably 10 and 13. It was family and friends would be like, "Oh, here's $50 to make your cousin's birthday cake," and little things like that. And then when I was 13, I was having some lunch at a local cafe with was my mum and my grandma, and we're paying the bill. And I used to love making coffee as well, so I had a coffee machine at home. And so we were buying some coffee beans as we were paying the bill, and the lady serving us asked if we wanted them ground or whole bean. And I said, "Oh no, I've got my own grinder at home." And obviously, it's not many 13-year-olds who you would hear saying that they've got their own grinder and they want whole coffee beans. And so it took her a bit by surprise. And she said, "Oh, why do you know all this stuff about food?" And I said, "Oh, I would do a bit of cooking and baking at home." And I showed her some photos and everything. And all of a sudden she said, "Oh, well, maybe you could bring some samples in here. We're actually looking for a new cake supplier. Maybe you could sell your stuff here." I didn't really think much of it. About 3 or 4 weeks later, I sent them an email, and the manager came back saying, "Yeah, that was actually the owner you were speaking to. She asked me to get you some samples in from you." And the next week, I took some samples down, like everything I could think of baking. And before I knew it, I found myself supplying this cafe at 13, and I was in year 9, and they'd place their orders by 3 p.m. and would deliver on the way to school the next morning, and I would have baked it all the night before.
Wow. Look, I'm actually quite interested in the drive element. Like, I get the cooking passion. You're young and you might be this interested in something, and it's cooking for you. But there is this business element there as well. That started being an entrepreneur. What motivated you to do this? Rather than, I don't know, playing video games or skateboarding or something.
Yeah, it's I wouldn't say there's one particular thing. I think Definitely like my parents have had a big impact in that, like, mum runs her own business, and it's not necessarily been like a you have to run your own business and things like that. But I've just grown up in a business household, things like talking about tax at the dinner table and GST and stuff is kind of the norm. So I think from a young age, I was sort of treated like an adult and was put into that world. And then for me, I think more than anything is it's sort of what fulfills me and gives me a lot of purpose in life. And that's when I really do feel, at my best. So I think, pushing and driving to that point gives me something to work towards and thrive to.
Mm. Like school holidays, you had your own pop-up store and you sold like I think I read 10,000 donuts in a week
Yeah.
or 8 days. I'm not even sure what the question is here, but I mean, I guess were these donuts like out of the world, or was it picking the right place at the right time as well? Perhaps your charm, being young, all of the above, or was it just
I
the
think yeah, it was definitely a combination of everything. I think, still to this day, we make amazing donuts, and the key to our donuts as well is honestly just freshness. Making donuts fresh every single morning is a huge difference that a lot of people aren't willing to start the hours need be. So that's what we're doing in the pop-up store. We're starting most mornings at 3 or 4 in the morning and making them all fresh every single day. And then, as you said, I was 15 when the pop-up store was happening, so still very young. I think a business as a whole is always an entire story. It's not necessarily just one product. Business is a narrative, and I think people fall in love with the whole narrative and the brand behind it. So I think I was lucky to have a few stars align there.
yeah. Look, on one hand, your journey sounds sort of simple, like that you enjoyed cooking shows, recreating, selling some stuff at a local cafe, a pop-up shop during the school holidays, then a store. So I said it seems simple to follow those steps, but there must have been some blood, sweat, and tears in the middle of all of this. I feel like there's a story in between all of this. I mean, what challenges did you face as a young entrepreneur, and how'd you overcome them?
Yeah, and honestly, we are still facing those challenges today. Like we've just expanded to a second store and about to open a restaurant, and that blood, sweat, and tears is no more true than now than ever. It's, there's so much hard work that goes into running a business and especially a food business. Food businesses margins are low, labor is high, so it needs to be driven by the owner, whether it's the hard work of setting up stores and doing pop-ups and things like that, and actually physically building the stores because you can't afford to pay somebody, or doing other things like that. There's so many challenges, but I think the hardest thing is just the sheer workload. Like at the moment, I'll be working 80 to 100 hours a week, um, on a good week. The other day, I did an 18 and a half hour day. So it was, there's lots of work going into it.
Yeah. I saw a stat that you sold now, I mean, over 1 million donuts and had over 5,000 flavors. I was just thinking about these flavors. Look, I got all the basic flavors in my head, and I can think of all these other sort of ones, but
Yeah.
5,000, what are some of the flavors that are a little bit more out there?
Yeah, as you said, that was a lot of those flavors came from when I started at home. I would be doing 6 new flavors every Saturday and 6 new flavors every Sunday. So it was crazy the sheer volume of flavors we went through. Now our menu's sort of down to our most perfect ones that we've come up with over the years. But we've done all sorts of flavors that you can think of. We've done typical odd donuts like your maple bacon and things like that. We've done a hazelnut dukkha one. We've done even like a few prank ones with like chili tuna on the inside.
Ugh.
So we've done quite a lot and our fair share. But I think it's all about, absolutely just getting to the best and the best of the menu, which is where we're sort of at now.
Yeah. So tell me about Bistro Morgan, located in Melbourne, in Windsor and Fitzroy. What
Yeah.
can Melburnians expect on the menu? I mean, obviously donuts. But I did notice there's a few other things on the menu too.
Yeah, so donuts is sort of our signature, and I would say definitely if you're coming to visit, make sure you try a donut because that's sort of what started everything, as we've just said. But nowadays we also do yeah, so donuts, cookies, scrolls, and toasties. So we make some beautiful cinnamon scrolls, which are like a brioche dough rolled in like a cinnamon, and then a vanilla glaze on top. We have some great cookies like chocolate chip, and we have like a Biscoff cookie butter one.
Well,
And then our toasties are amazing, thick house-made sourdough bread, and I've got things like a a Reuben on the inside on a light rye, or like ham and cheese, a chicken avocado. So we have a few really, really good toasties, and then of course our coffees and our shakes.
Yeah. Hopefully, there's plans to expand one day, so people like us in WA can enjoy
Yeah.
your goodies as well, and not just when we're popping into Melbourne. But what's your creative process like when like coming up with new recipes? Where do you draw inspiration for your unique and innovative dishes?
I think for me, inspiration comes from everywhere. It's things like, scrolling through Pinterest and searching what some of the, amazing things are done before and how you can adapt it to your version. I think that's the key thing for me. Looking through supermarket shelves even and seeing the new products that have come out and seeing what fruits in season and seeing what's available to use to you. I think inspiration is everywhere. It's just being able to actually identify it around you and really hone in on that. I think, yeah, inspiration is easy to find if you know what you're looking for, in all honesty. Even just looking at other cafes' menus and seeing what dishes, if a hot cake dish has worked, that flavor combination is probably going to work on, say, a donut or a cookie as well.
Yeah. All right. So next stop, Dessert Masters. This is not an amateur series. This is like Top Gun, the best of the best. You definitely an outright success yourself. So is it daunting sort of being in a group like this?
Yeah, 100%. It's daunting, very surreal. I've grown up with these people and my fellow contestants, and I've got, photos of me and Adriano when I was about 12 with him doing some of his cooking lessons back in the day. So, very surreal to be in the same room and have my name alongside people of that caliber. So yeah, it's daunting, but also very surreal.
Well, Melissa and Maria judging. I get if you're an amateur chef, any bit of advice is helpful, and judgment is based on their professional knowledge. But when you are someone that is at the top of your craft, like yourself, and Adriana Zumbo, when you're being told something is, I don't know, underdone, overdone, not enough flavor, do you take that on board, or are you thinking under your breath, well, it's not underdone, it's actually perfect?
Oh, look, I think it's not necessarily there's more elements that come into play. I think the hardest thing about the MasterChef kitchen environment is the time pressure, and that clock is very much real. And you're cooking in a kitchen that you've never cooked in before. So for me, that was the hardest part. And I think often the things the judges will be saying, in your heart is probably correct. I think that's the key thing, and they do know what they're talking about, and that they can identify most things. So I wouldn't say it's no, what are you talking about? I think it's more you can understand, but the best thing about it is you can have a conversation and whilst that dish is being tasted, a lot of the times it was, oh, was this meant to be like this and things like that. And then you could justify a reason and have a conversation and talk it through.
Yeah. Look, I have this love hate thing going on with any type of dessert shows. Look, because on one hand, I'm a massive dessert connoisseur. I love desserts. So any kind at all, and watching these creations is awesome. But I never seem to be able to recreate anything well. Very difficult to make, and usually you just can't buy these kind of desserts anywhere. Have you had that? I mean, it's a nice complaint from others that things are so nice, but like impossible to create because desserts seem to be, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but harder than regular food to
Yeah,
recreate.
especially the style that you'll see on Dessert Masters. A lot of the style is very much a restaurant style plated dessert, or a style of dessert, what we call entremets, which are like a French laid mousse cake. These sorts of desserts, look, you can create at home, but as you said, there's a lot of tools that you'll often need that most everyday home cook won't have, as well as ingredients, whether it's things like stabilizers or dextrose or whatever the like, special ingredients are. It's stuff that you won't necessarily be able to source easily just from your local supermarket. But yes, I think that's the thing about dessert is there's so much room for creativity there. And at the end of the day, it can almost be like a science experiment, putting different ingredients together and playing with a bit of chemistry, which is why often it can get a bit more challenging to make it at home.
Yeah. Can you give the audience a taste of, oh, pardon the pun, of what type of desserts we'll see this season?
Look, there's some amazing desserts. As I said, a lot of restaurant style, what we call plated desserts. So it's the stuff that you would be, going to some of the top restaurants in Australia and the world and be expecting to see on that dessert menu. There's a lot of challenges that push the boundaries and really, help to push us as the contestants to create something that we wouldn't have necessarily done without that little push. So I think yeah, be expect for some wild and wacky stuff and some things that isn't necessarily quite what you expect it is from first glance.
Yeah. Look, you seem to be lacking a few TikTok followers, I see. 1.1 million followers. You're also on Instagram at Morgan Hipworth. With so many negative influences out there and people following all sorts of crazy things, you're pretty chuffed that people, especially young people, are actually engaging in like food, in cooking, desserts, and things like that.
Yeah, 100%. I think for me, as you said, social media can be a toxic place, and I always just try and keep it as positive as possible. And I think I've been lucky enough to find a community who just bond over a love of food, and I think that's what I do best. And whether my videos is making people make those exact dishes, whether it's inspiring them just to get into the kitchen, or whether it's as simple as them just watching the video going, "Wow, that looks good." Amazing. I think there's different levels of the type of people that follow me in that sense, but I think their mutual love is always food. And that's what I really try and do. It's amazing. I've got quite a young demographic of audience. I think my main sort of demographic is around like the 18 to 25 mark. So pretty
Mm.
much my age, which obviously makes sense given that's my age and that sort of seems to resonate with them. But it's amazing to see an age group who typically may not be seen to be big in the kitchen, moving into that space. So it's cool.
Mm. And just finally, I just have to wonder how do you balance the demands of your business, social media, and I'm guessing you've got to have some kind of personal life as well.
What's that?
What does a typical day in the life of Morgan Hipworth look like?
Look, it's busy, especially at the moment. It's probably the busiest I've ever been. I'm literally in the process of opening a brand new restaurant, which we're doing all day breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Wow.
So that's called Maven's. That's going to be next door to our Bistro Morgan Fitzroy store. So that should open early December. So at the moment, I'm pretty busy because we've just opened our new Fitzroy store. We've moved our kitchen to the rear of the Fitzroy store. We're in the process of opening Maven, and as you said, I'm still trying to do my social media stuff and have a little bit of a life somewhere in there. So, look, today I'm going in. I started, a late bake today. I'm not starting baking till about 8:30 in the morning. Heading in, I'll be baking all day. We do a lot of wholesale as well, so I'll be prepping a lot of our wholesale orders. I got a team meeting here this afternoon at about 5 p.m. and hopefully I'll be home by 6:30 or 7. And that's a good day. The other day on Sunday, for example, I start baking at 4 a.m. So I'll be in here at 4 a.m. and I'll be baking all the donuts for the day with one of my apprentices, and we'll be hopefully out by about 1. So I think the short answer is no 2 days are
Wow.
exactly the same. I kind of, as a business owner, just go wherever I need to and wherever we're short staffed or wherever, the staff member needs a hand. But to say you're always working would be an understatement, whether it's on emails, on social media, on editing the social media videos, on running the business, on developing the new Maven menu. There's always something to be done.
And you've got time for this podcast. Thank you so much.
No worries at all.
Really looking forward to Dessert Masters. Wishing the best of luck with that, and of course with Bistro Morgan and the new restaurant coming up. Morgan, thank you for joining me here at TV Central.
Thanks for having me, mate.
All right, that was Morgan Hipworth, star of Dessert Masters, premiering 12th of November 2023 at 7:30 p.m. on 10 and 10 Play. If you're in Melbourne, you can pop into Bistro Morgan in Windsor and Fitzroy, and you can follow Morgan at Instagram at Morgan Hipworth. He also has a great book made by Morgan available now. Well, that's it for this podcast. For all the latest news, streaming options, ratings, television guides, and podcasts, head to tvcentral.com.au. But for now, I'm Aaron Ryan, and thank you to Morgan Hipworth. Bye for now.